it has occurred to me that there are a couple of things that have happened in my cancer journey that I could share with you all in more of a shareable platform. I had 2 people this week ask in separate groups about tamoxifen. They were worried about tamoxifen. I had a very unusual reaction to tamoxifen, and I wanted to be able to record this so that I could share it with others if they were interested, rather than having to retell the story every single time. So when I went in to get radiation, people, yay! So when I went in to get radiation, the radiation oncologist was a female and wasn't particularly nice to me. And that didn't sit very well with me. She was not very compassionate. So because I decided I didn't want to do radiation, I did tamoxifen immediately. Went to my doctor, said, how soon can you put me on tamoxifen? I was on tamoxifen for 2.5 years total. In those 2.5 years of going to the oncologist, I would hear him say, oh, well, you know, you'll be on it for 3 years. Oh, well, you know, you'll be on it for 5 years. Oh, well, you know, you're going to be on it for 7 years. Well, you know, you're going to be on it for 10 years. That was the first time I maybe got a little like iffy as to, you don't even know how long you're going to have me on this. And I understand that there are variables. I get that. But as a patient, having the numbers jumped farther and farther away from you is not comforting at all. So for once in my life on tamoxifen, I did have a libido, which was very unusual for me. Being someone with sexual abuse in my past and depression. Those two don't make for a tiger in the sack, if you know what I mean. Vulnerable check. So that was nice. Until I started hemorrhaging, that wasn't so cool. It was about a shot glass a day. So I happen to have my Louisiana shot glass here. Thanks, Janelle. About this much a day. Oh, wait. It was this much an hour. It wasn't this much a day. That wouldn't have been that much, because a Diva cup, I don't know if those of you ladies who have seen a Diva cup, but holds about this much. So it was about this much an hour. I started to hemorrhage, and I was very concerned, because you aren't supposed to bleed when you're on tamoxifen, let alone like a lot. Originally, they had talked about doing an ablation, which is kind of a glorified version of a blowtorch, but up in there, you know. But because my uterus was tilted, so instead of being like so, it was actually upside down. So sticking a blowtorch like past a kink and getting it to work, they didn't feel too confident with that. So they had said that the tamoxifen causes thickening of the lining of the uterus. 8 millimeters is what's normal. Mine was 18 millimeters the last time that they had measured it. So the hemorrhaging continues, and I'm really worried, because I can't go anywhere. I put the Diva cup in, I empty it right before I leave the house. I can't even tell you how many times I bled through my clothes just trying to get groceries done. So they end up giving me the option of a hysterectomy, and because I'm estrogen positive, they're not going to give me a full hysterectomy. She said that would be cruel and unusual punishment, seeing as I can't have any help with any of the estrogen side effects, like hot flashes and stuff. So she left one, she was going to leave one ovary. So again, for surgery, all that stuff. I think everything's fine. I don't have any like bad vibes about it or anything, but I wake up from surgery and my gynecologist comes in and she puts her hand on my wrist and looks me in the eye. And that's never good. She goes, we had a couple of problems. And I'm like, okay. She goes, first, my attending doctor looked down and saw that your ovary was covered in cyst and looked right at me and said, does she have ovarian cancer? So they removed that ovary, and none of the cysts that were on it were cancerous. They were all benign. So they went to removing my uterus and my cervix, and they did like a cell culture on both. And she said, it's a good thing that we removed your uterus and your cervix because the cells were both precancerous. Okay. She goes, but the real problem was that we kept clamping you off and you were bleeding and clamping you off and you were bleeding and you had to have 2 blood transfusions. Okay. So I just proceed as normal. I'm not even thinking it has anything to do with the tamoxifen, really. And a couple months later, I'm still on tamoxifen, mind you. They did not tell me not to take tamoxifen before I went into surgery. I went into the doctor afterwards and told him the results. And he's like, okay, you still take it. So I was still taking it. A couple months after the hysterectomy, I was like, I haven't had an eye exam in a long time. Maybe I should get an eye exam. And I call. And I remember I got on the freeway at Murrieta Hot Springs and I was heading north. I don't know why I remember it so badly, but I do. And he's like, well, we have to schedule a special eye exam for you because you're on tamoxifen. And I said, why? Because you're on tamoxifen. Yeah, but what are you looking for? Well, it's a special test because you're on tamoxifen. So thanks for nothing. Thanks for not telling me why I have to have what you're looking for on this special test. So I go home and I Google side effects of tamoxifen. And it is blood clots, additional cancer, and glaucoma. So the blood clots I didn't really correlate with the hemorrhaging until a couple of years later, because once I was trained as a community outreach researcher and I had my own researcher at my disposal, I could ask her any questions I wanted. I said, so when I was on tamoxifen, I bled out on the table, but the side effects said that it caused blood clots. And she said, well, anything that can cause something in one direction can cause it in the other direction, meaning anything that could be something that causes blood clots could also be a blood thinner. Not now. I'm live. So the additional cancer, I did correlate that. It kind of finally sunk in. I did have a second cancer scare because of it. And I wasn't going to get glaucoma. I wasn't going to lose my eyesight. So I very publicly took myself off tamoxifen. And I called my naturopath and I said, I'm going off tamoxifen. This is why. What can I take that's more natural? So I was taking Endol E-carbinol for a long time as like a hormone regulator. And I was okay with that. I had people like, oh, be careful, all that stuff. I said, I know my body reacts weird to things. I've had weird reactions. I don't even know if my chemo really even worked. It was supposed to shrink my tumor, but I don't even know if it did that, because they had to put me on like a heavier chemotherapy like halfway through. So I recognize that my body doesn't work properly. I mean, I can't even ingest alcohol properly. So what's it going to do to medication, right? So I go off tamoxifen very publicly, and I'm a state leader for Young Survival Coalition. And I don't want to scare anyone at the same time as I don't want to be like, you have to go off tamoxifen, look what it did to me. I understand that we're all individuals, and medication works differently for all of us. And my West Coast regional director at the time says there's a symposium on ER positive breast cancer, and you should go. And so I went, and it wasn't just tamoxifen. It was any estrogen positive breast cancer treatment that they were talking about. But the one that they did focus on was tamoxifen. So they talked about, so the study number they were using was 1,000. So out of 1,000, 500 people that used tamoxifen had no noticeable side effects. So that's half. 3 out of the 1,000, so this isn't the 500, this is the other 500. 3 died. And 0.5%, so that's, let's see, 496 and a half. The half had catastrophic side effects: blood clots, additional cancer, glaucoma. One of those. And I had 2 of those. So I'm 1 in 2,000 that had a catastrophic side effect, let alone 2 catastrophic side effects. So it gave me a lot more, like, it solidified my decision for me. But $496.5 out of the 1,000 had very noticeable to detrimental side effects. So like weight gain, bloating, irritability, spotting, etc. So 500 out of 1,000 had nothing. The other 500 out of 1,000 had problems. What I learned through ethics when I was trained as a community outreach researcher is it's very hard to have a control group when it comes to life-saving drugs, because it's very hard to prove you didn't coerce someone into not taking a life-saving drug so that you can study them to see how efficient the drug is. So knowing what these people's lives would be like without this drug is hard to tell. Would those 3 people have died anyway? Would the 0.5% have gotten additional cancer of the uterus, of the cervix, of the ovaries, or glaucoma? I don't know. There's no control group, so it's hard to say. I only know what happened to me. I only know my story. And my story is never something I've really made public, because of all the things I loathe a fearmonger. When you're pregnant and you've never had a kid before, and she goes and tells you how horrible childbirth is, or you've never driven before and someone tells you about some horrific car accident they got in when they were a new driver. that kind of fear mongering. I never wanted to do that. I don't want to do that. But this is true. This did happen to me. Unfortunately, the libido went away when I didn't take tamoxifen anymore. I had really bad clitoral pain when I started tamoxifen. Think smuggling a rose bush in your lady lips. Fun, huh? Yeah. I had that after I went off tamoxifen. And I get to have it again when I go through menopause. So I go back to the doctor and I tell him, you know, yo, F this tamoxifen business. I'm not taking it anymore. And he goes, well, when you get an eye test and you find out you don't have glaucoma, are you going to take it? Are you still going to take it? Or are you going to go on it still? I'm like, I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not losing my eyesight. This guy had a tick. Like, he had a tick already. And the more I opposed what he wanted me to do, the worse his tick got. So his tick got really bad. I was irritating the man because I wouldn't do what he asked. But it's my life. And if I feel like something's not working for me, I fully bear all the consequences of doing it. How you can't go into something half-hearted and stay at it half-hearted, like worried forever that you made the wrong decision. You make that decision and you sit with it. You don't look back on it because you can't change it. And I wasn't going to change my decision because I felt that it was right. Just like I felt not getting radiation was right for me. And he wouldn't see me after that. My oncologist wouldn't see me after that. I saw other doctors in the office. He just, I guess he couldn't deal with me anymore. But we changed insurances and I had to change oncologists, and I got worried. I'm like, am I going to have to deal with this oncologist that's going to be pissed at me because I won't follow along? And I go in there the first time, I was super worried. I tell her, you know, I'm not taking tamoxifen because. She goes, oh, tamoxifen gave you additional cancer. I could have pooped purple Twinkies when she said that. Like, I could not believe this oncologist was like, yeah, tamoxifen gave you additional cancer. Whoa, somebody believes me. But she also said, you know, we can't really do anything for you. I said, I don't want you to. I'm perfectly capable of living with my decisions. If it comes back, I can smash my own head in a door or chalk it up to fate. I'm not about blaming anything I've ever done or anything I've ever dealt with on anybody but myself. Because ultimately, I'm the one that dealt with it. I'm the one that made the decision. It's my life choice. And I want to let you know that it's your life with your doctor's guidance. Not, it's not that their word is the end all be all. It's advice for you to do what's right or how to proceed with your life. You can perfectly go and do whatever you want there. I thought my doctor was going to get really mad when I didn't do radiation. And he didn't. He just goes, okay. So those things you incur along the way are choices. I chose to have both breasts removed. I chose not to do radiation. I chose not to take tamoxifen after it made me hemorrhage. Nope. Real life people. And I want you to know that you have choices and that you have a choice in regards to who does your reconstruction. If you want to do reconstruction, if you want flat closure, tell them you want flat closure. If you only want one, tell them you only want one. It's your life. You're not their puppet. They're at your service. They're community service members. You are not their puppets. So I hope my story helped you. And I 100% didn't mean for it to scare you. Because again, I'm a medical outlier. All kinds of weird shit happens to me all the time. It's just part of my life. And I would love to have an open forum if anybody would like to talk about anything cancer related, body issue related, self-love related. I'm all about it. And I hope to do these weekly, and we're going to upload them to our YouTube. And you guys can make fun of how my eyebrows aren't the same shape. I love you guys. And this is just another extension of House of Volta. My name is Story Nagel. Happy to be of service. Good day and good night.